What if I told you that everything you believe about your relationship is a lie? That the love you think is unshakable, the connection you swear is unbreakable, might be built on illusions. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. No filters, no fairy tales. Just the raw, unfiltered truth about what it really takes to make love last. Ladies and gentlemen, relationships are not what we see in movies. They're not the highlight reels on social media. They're messy, they're challenging, and if you're not careful, they can become the very thing that breaks you instead of building you. But here's the good news. When you know the truth, you can change the game. Let me tell you something profound about love, something we don't talk about nearly enough. You've been told your whole life that if you just love someone enough, everything will fall into place. That if the connection is real, the relationship will thrive effortlessly. But here's the hard truth. Love is not enough. It never has been, and it never will be. Think about it. How many couples do you know who were deeply in love but still fell apart? How many times have you heard someone say, "We loved each other so much, but it just didn't work out"? Love is the spark, the initial pull that brings two people together, but it is not the glue that holds them there. A lasting relationship requires so much more: trust, respect, patience, effort, and a willingness to grow together, even when it's uncomfortable. Love without understanding is just infatuation. Love without communication is just two people talking past each other. Love without compromise is just a power struggle in disguise. The most successful relationships aren't the ones where love is perfect. They're the ones where both people choose, every single day, to put in the work. They show up even when it's hard. They listen, even when they'd rather be right. They forgive, even when it hurts. So if you're holding on to the idea that love alone will carry you through, I need you to hear this. Love is the foundation, but you still have to build the house. And that means rolling up your sleeves, facing the tough conversations, and committing to something deeper than just feelings. Because feelings fade, chemistry changes, but a relationship built on truth, effort, and real partnership, that's what stands the test of time. Let's talk about something that might make you uncomfortable, but that's where the real growth happens. Your relationship isn't just about your partner. It's a mirror reflecting back at you, the parts of yourself you've ignored, avoided, or refused to heal. Every time you feel frustrated, every argument that keeps resurfacing, every little habit of theirs that drives you crazy, that's not just about them. It's about you. Think about the last time you got really upset with your partner. What was it that triggered you? Was it their forgetfulness? Their lack of ambition? The way they shut down during conflict? Now ask yourself, why does that bother you so deeply? Often the things we criticize in others are the very things we struggle with ourselves, or they point to old wounds we haven't faced. If you grew up feeling unheard, a partner who doesn't listen will feel like salt in that childhood wound. If you were raised to believe your worth was tied to achievement, a laid-back partner might trigger insecurity in you. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about empowering yourself. Because once you realize that your reactions say more about your inner world than your partner's actions, everything changes. Instead of demanding they change, you start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of resentment, you find opportunities for growth, both individually and together. A truly transformative relationship isn't one where two perfect people never argue. It's where two imperfect people use their friction as sandpaper, smoothing out each other's rough edges through patience, self-awareness, and compassion. So the next time your partner does something that irritates you, pause, look inward. That mirror is showing you something important. Will you have the courage to see it? Here's a reality most couples miss until it's too late. You can talk for hours and still never truly communicate. Real connection isn't about who speaks the loudest or makes the cleverest point. It's about who listens with their whole being. Most of us enter conversations waiting for our turn to speak, rather than seeking to understand. We rehearse our counter-arguments while our partner is still sharing their heart. That's not communication. That's verbal warfare, disguised as dialogue. Think about your last disagreement. Were you truly absorbing what your partner was saying? Or were you mentally preparing your defense? There's a world of difference between hearing words and receiving their meaning. True listening requires surrender. You must quiet your ego's need to be right and create space for your partner's truth, even when it challenges you. This is where most relationships break down, not from lack of love, but from lack of deep, present, intentional listening. The magic happens when you shift from, "I need you to understand me," to "help me understand you." When you replace, "But what about," with, "Tell me more about that," suddenly, arguments transform into bridges. Vulnerability replaces defensiveness. You discover that most conflicts aren't about the surface issue. They're about the unmet needs and unspoken fears beneath them. This kind of communication takes practice. It means biting your tongue when you want to interrupt. It means reflecting back what you heard, instead of reacting to what you assume. It means sitting with discomfort when your partner shares something hard to hear. But this is the soil where real intimacy grows, not in perfect harmony, but in the courageous willingness to truly hear and be heard. When both people feel safe to express their full truth without fear of judgment or retaliation, that's when love stops being something you say and becomes something you live. The greatest paradox of love is this: the tighter you try to hold on, the more it slips through your fingers. We enter relationships with this unconscious fantasy that love means molding someone into our ideal version of them, smoothing out their edges, adjusting their habits, fixing what we perceive as flaws. But here's the painful truth. Disguised as wisdom, when you love with conditions, you're not loving the person. You're loving your fantasy of who they could become. Real love doesn't operate like a renovation project. It looks at the cracks and imperfections and says, "These two belong." That doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or abandoning boundaries. It means releasing the exhausting delusion that you can, or should, fundamentally change another human being. The moment you shift from, "I'll love you when you change," to "I love you as you are while we both grow," everything transforms. Control masquerades as care. When we confuse our anxieties with affection, checking their phone becomes protecting the relationship. Criticizing their choices turns into just wanting what's best. But love that suffocates isn't love. It's fear wearing a mask. The healthiest relationships breathe. They allow space for individuality, for separate passions, for the occasional disagreement. They understand that trust isn't proven by constant togetherness, but by the quiet confidence that says, "I don't own you, and that's why I cherish you." When two whole people choose each other freely, not out of obligation or fear of being alone, but from genuine desire, that's when love stops being a cage and becomes the sky. Your partner isn't your possession. They're your sacred mirror, your fellow traveler, the one who walks beside you, not because they have to, but because they can't imagine being anywhere else. That's the freedom where real love lives. So I ask you today, are you ready to face the truth? Are you ready to stop pretending and start building something real? Because the most powerful relationship you'll ever have is the one where both of you show up, fully seen, fully known, and fully chosen. That's the truth. And now that you know it, what will you do with it? Thank you.